Hi students! This week we are going to be working on determining the theme. So this is a challenging strategy, but let's get started. So we have a text and we have a reader. And we know that when an author writes a text, they're writing it for the reader. And sometimes the author has a message, and they want this message to be communicated to the reader. So when we determine the theme, and determine, grade 2, means to find out what something is. So when we find out what the theme is, we're finding out what lesson or message the author wants us to learn from reading their text. So we again have the text, we have the reader, but what is the message? What is the message that the author wants the reader to understand? Well, one way that we can remember what the theme is, what we're looking for when we try to determine the theme, is to just think about it just like that. It is the message. And look at this. This is very interesting. So if we look at the words the message, look at this. The plus the first two letters of message spells theme. So we can really think about theme as being the message. And sometimes it's a lesson that we should learn. So coming back to our example that we've been using all year long, since the very first day of school, we've been looking at this story, Little Red Riding Hood. So in this text, we actually talked about this in class, what the lesson or the message is that we can learn and understand from this story. So let's determine the theme. And when you as a reader try to determine the theme, you should ask yourself the question, what is the message the author wants to convey or communicate to the reader? So here I am, I'm the reader. I think there's a message that the author is trying to convey to me, but what is it? And as we discussed after reading this text in class, the message or the lesson from Little Red Riding Hood is that we should listen to our parents and adults that we trust, because these people are trying to keep us safe. So we know that in Little Red Riding Hood, Little Red's mom had told her to be careful in the forest and to stay on the path. But as Little Red was walking to her grandma's house, she saw some flowers that were off of the path. And she decided not to take her mother's advice, but to go and pick some flowers. And because of this, the effect was that the wolf found Little Red. And he then went to Grandma's house and tried to trick her, and he wanted to eat them. So as you can see, because Little Red did not listen to the adult that she trusted, she was in danger. So this is a message that we can get from the story, and it's a lesson that's important for us to learn in our lives. So we know this story already, but how can you find the theme of stories that you don't know yet? Let's look at a couple of examples. We're first going to look at a book called Best in Show, and this is another book that you can find on Epic. So, Best in Show by Barbara Bukowski, illustrated by Fionn Arroyo. It looks like it's going to be about dogs. I went to the dog show where I hoped to find which type of dog was the very best kind. A fluffy white poodle was fancy and proud. This beagle was friendly, his tricks charmed the crowd. The dogs were all sizes, some big and some small. The Chihuahua was tiny, the Great Dane quite tall. There were black dogs and white. The Dalmatian had spots. This dog was furry, but another was not. Which of the dogs would take home the top prize? The judge's decision was not a surprise. We each see what's best through our own pair of eyes. So do you see that all of the dogs got first place? They couldn't decide which one was the best because all of the judges saw their own idea of what was best. So let's think about, in this text, what is that message the author is trying to convey to me, the reader? One thing that came into my mind as I read this text was a famous saying, and we have many of these sayings in every language, and they're just a piece of wisdom, and they can be called idioms, and they are things that we hear a lot as we grow up and we get older. And in this story, I could recognize one that says, "Beauty is in the eye of the beholder." And what this idiom means is that everyone has their own idea about what is best and what is beautiful. Because beauty and what is best is an opinion, isn't it? So it means that one person can look at something and think it's beautiful, and another person can look and they can disagree. So this is an important message that the author wanted to convey to us. And I can also see another important lesson in here. And it's another lesson that I could learn, which is that everyone is unique. They're all different and special in their own way. So everybody has something that is best about them. This is also a really important lesson for us to understand as people. Let's try one more example. So here's a text called Bear's Bad Day, and it's by Wiley Blevins, and it's illustrated by Dave Clegg. So I see that it's going to be about a bear, and it looks like he's not having the best day. So, Bear lived in a cave in the middle of a forest, all alone. What Bear needed most was a friend, so he went out to find one. Bear spotted Owl. "Ha, ha, ha," said Bear, "you have big bug eyes." "Who?" said Owl. "You," said Bear. Who?" said Owl. You," said Bear. "Hoot, hoot, hoot," said Owl. "Oh, never mind," said Bear, and he walked on. Next, Bear met Skunk. "Wow," said Bear, "you stink." Thank you," said Skunk. "That's what I was trying for." Skunk turned around. He lifted his tail. 1, 2, 3. Bear ran away, and as Bear was running, he saw Turtle. "Get out of my way, slowpoke," he growled. "Are you having a bad day?" asked Turtle. Bear huffed and ran on. After that, Bear saw Deer. "Look at those skinny legs," he said. "You should be called stick legs. Ha, 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 ha." "Stop it," said Deer. "That's not nice." "Let's get out of here," said Rabbit. They hopped, and leaped away. Finally, Bear walked to a river. He sat and held his head low. "There are no friends in this forest," he grumbled. Bird flew down beside Bear. "If you want a friend," she said, "you have to stop being mean." "Mean?" asked Bear. "Yes," said Bird. "You are a big bully." "I think they would make fun of me," said Bear. "My big belly, my hairy arms." Bird shook her head. "No." "So what should I do?" asked Bear. "I have an idea," said Bird. She whispered in Bear's ear. Bear raced back to his cave. Bird flew to all the animals. She told them Bear had a surprise. When the animals got to Bear's cave, they found food, games, and a big sign. On it were written two important words: "I'm sorry." From that day on, Bear had many friends. So, do you think that we can find the theme of this text? What is the message the author wants to convey to the reader? What can it be? So in this text, I was able to find a couple of really important messages and lessons coming through. One of those was about how people make friends. So in this book, Bear had to learn a lesson. And the lesson he needed to learn was that the way that we make friends is through being kind and through treating others like we ourselves would like to be treated. So Bear was going around trying to make friends by making fun of people. And Bird came and taught him the lesson that that's not the right way to make friends. And there was also another important lesson that I found in the book, and that was a lesson about understanding bullies. And in this book, we saw the story through Bear's eyes and what did it felt like to be Bear. And I learned that sometimes bullies bully because they're actually lonely and sad. And they really want to make friends, they just don't know how. So this is something that is important for us to understand in our lives, that sometimes when we come across a person who's not being kind and they seem really mean, it could be that they're just hurting inside and they don't actually know how to make friends. So again, there's really important messages and lessons that we can learn when we read. And I really hope this was helpful, and I wish you all the best of luck as you try to determine the theme of the text that you read this week.